Hello, my name is Julia.
My name is Annie.
And we are Anglophiles.
You know, it starts out innocently enough.
Couple of episodes of Doctor Who, maybe keeping up appearances when you're bored.
Maybe you got started on historical dramas. The odd Jane Austen miniseries. You just watched it socially. No big deal.
And then before you know it, you're holed up in a dark room somewhere watching the complete history of the British monarchy at 2 a.m. just to hear the accents.
We're here to tell you that it's okay. You've got friends here on the couch. The first step to solving a problem is admitting that you have one.
So with that in mind, we present to you our top 3 problem shows.
Our number 3 problem show is Downton Abbey. I don't see how you could have avoided this. It's been a transatlantic phenomenon over the last few years, but it's this fabulous Edwardian, sort of World War I era drama. Upstairs, downstairs style, a lot of class issues, and some very intricate characters. Now, part of the advantage of this show is even though there are 3 seasons, there's not that many episodes. There are 24 episodes. It's 8 episodes a season. That's a British thing. The seasons are shorter.
One of the things that I love about this show is that in addition to phenomenal acting and writing, it's very pretty aesthetically. Like, the cinematography is great, the locations are beautiful, the costuming is fabulous. It's just a very pretty show. Number 2 on our list is Skins. Now, this show is definitely mature audiences only. It's kind of a seedier side to modern British culture. How accurate it actually is, I can't say, but it does get pretty racy. Yes.
I'm pretty sure you couldn't air this show in the US, and certainly not on a network because it's all this sex, drugs, and trashy stuff happening with underage people.
That being said, it does show a surprising amount of depth. The kids in the show deal with things like paralysis, death of a parent, the effects of their blatant drug abuse. It gets really heavy, and it's actually pretty deep. Now, I say this, I've only actually watched the first 2 seasons because another trend with British television is that they like to just completely get rid of their old cast and bring in a brand new one. So at the end of the 2nd season, all the characters from season 1 graduate high school, basically. They wrap things up so nicely with the original cast that I just didn't really feel the need to keep watching.
And our number 1 problem show is
Doctor Who.
Now, this is partially just a problem of volume because the show has been airing since 2005, except that it's actually been airing for 50 years because the classic series started in the 60s and it ran right up through the 80s, and then it was canceled, and then there was a television movie, and there is a lot to go through if you want.
Speaking of shows that like to completely reinvent their casts, this is another one of those shows you should not get too attached to any particular character, or actor, for that matter. The fact that they've been able to maintain this storyline and maintain the character for 50 years says something about this show in general, because how many other TV shows would you continue to watch when all of the people involved in front of the screen keep changing?
I think it is a remarkable show, if only for its sheer endurance.
Seriously, guys, you should be proud of us that we've waited this long to talk about Doctor Who. We'd probably talk about it all the time.
It was restraint on our part.
Yeah.
I think you should also admire our restraint that we haven't listed Sherlock as one of our problem shows, even though it clearly is.
Skins, Top Gear, Being Human, The Office,
coupling.
The list of American adaptations of British shows goes on and on and on.
Sometimes they work. Sometimes they crash and burn.
So tonight, we are judging how well a script can travel across the Atlantic on
Versus Battle Royale. Tonight, it's House of Cards versus House of Cards. Now, for those of you who don't know, not only was the Netflix original series House of Cards originally a BBC miniseries, it was actually originally a trilogy of books.
So round one is tone.
There is a distinct difference of tone between the British version and the American version.
I think you can tell right from the opening title sequence, because whereas the US version is kind of dark and gritty and modern and flashing lights and intense music, the British version is just this kind of flyover shot of Parliament with this like quirky do-do-do music.
And rats in the foreground.
And rats. They're very fond of the rat metaphor.
Yeah.
The American version is much grittier, mainly because of just filmmaking reasons. The music they use is a lot more tense. The cinematography is low key, which means there's a lot of shadows, there's a lot of definition between the shadows and the light. It's almost film noir-esque.
I still would argue that the British version is creepier because although it does start out lighter and it is physically less gritty, it is not afraid to pull its punches.
And see, this is where I would actually disagree with Annie, because I feel like the British version is just, like, from the way that it's presented in the show, it feels like this madcap romp through British politics. The American version is very definitely a political thriller, and I think the tension is what wins me over for the American version. So this one's a tie.
Yeah. Round two is politics, because this is a show that is immersed in politics. And it's remarkable, really, that it's been able to translate across the ocean because the political systems are extremely different.
If you watch the British version and you're confused, it's okay. I am too.
British Parliament doesn't have a system of terms the way that American does. So a British Prime Minister is Prime Minister for as long as people want him to be. So he can be there for 10 years or he could be there for 10 days.
Also, don't confuse Prime Minister with President.
Not the same thing at all.
Those are not the same thing. So for this one, I would have to choose the US version just because I'm more familiar with American politics, so I understood a lot more. It's also kind of fun to get this dark underbelly side of Congress and a little bit depressing because you're like, oh, dear Lord, I hope that's not how America works.
I would have to go with the UK version because I think the story is so caught up in the way that the political system works that it feels cumbersome to me looking at the US version like, God, this is taking so long. Why can't you just kick him out already? So, I think this one's a tie too.
Yeah. And finally, round three is the main character, Francis. He's Francis Underwood in the American version.
In the British version, he's Francis Urquhart.
I never knew I could be so in love with Kevin Spacey. From the first line he says, it's directly said to the camera, but it's that southern drawl. My God, that accent is probably one of the best character choices I have seen in a show, a movie, ever, because right away, you know immediately who Francis Underwood is just from the accent.
In the UK version, they have, and I think they need, a scene with Francis Urquhart on his family estate and hunting with his dogs, and I think you have to go back to his estate and see how he grew up in order to get that in the UK version, whereas in the US version, you get it from the accent, which is brilliant. Francis Underwood is much more of a seductive character.
He's seductive and he's a lot sneakier, I think.
But Francis Urquhart does a very good job of projecting this image of the elder statesman. He gets everyone thinking that he's taking this role of prime minister because he must, because the country needs him to. But he's not quite the squeaky clean elder statesman that you think he is. It has translated so well across the Atlantic that the shows they're just tied. They're good in different ways, but in the same ways. I don't know how to explain it.
So to round out the night, we've got things that we're pretty excited about,
But also a little bit scared of.
because it is May, which means the summer movie season is finally upon us, and from the looks of it, it's going to be a rich movie summer and a poor wallet summer.
We have so many movies coming out this summer.
Starting with this weekend, Iron Man 3 finally hits theaters. If you've seen any of the recent spots, there is actually a shot of Gwyneth Paltrow in an Iron Man suit.
It looks so awesome! And then on May 10th, The Great Gatsby is finally coming to theaters. It looks gorgeous.
And of course, May 17th, we've got Star Trek. Oh my gosh, this movie looks so good.
All of the people that we love coming back at last. And another superhero movie, Man of Steel, is coming in June 14th. And that looks awesome. You've got sassy, doesn't play by the rules reporter Lois Lane is looking pretty cool. And I'm not usually excited about Superman.
Neither am I, but this one looks really good.
Yeah.
Also, there's going to be a scene in there where he's on fire. He's
Apparently.
literally walking around with flames, and he's on fire. And then finally, in August, we have Kick-Ass 2, which looks pretty damn kick-ass.
So that's what we're excited about this week.
Join us again next time.
And until then, keep watching.